another full edition of the Touchdown Ontario podcast here on TYSN, powered by Football Ontario. Guys, we're halfway through the OSFL season, even a little bit more than halfway through. Really looking into the playoff picture here. Let me welcome in my panel of guests. First things first here, I'll throw it to you first, Mike. How's it going being a part of the TYSN team kind of for the first time here this summer? It's been great to have you. What have you thought about the OSFL so far?
Yeah, man, guys, it's been fantastic. Thanks for having me. Every single week is this new little cool challenge, getting to talk to some fresh faces, the stories of the week, highlighting some of these fantastic coaches that are around the province, running their teams and getting them to highlight their players. It's something, I don't think when I've been coaching the past few years, none of it really happened, and now that we're able to make this happen for the clubs, it's been fantastic. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to voice Ontario football on this platform. It's been amazing, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Well, I will say, Mike, I've loved watching those conversations. I love the guests you've got on. A lot of the cool stories behind the scenes that you've been able to get to with these coaches throughout the province has been awesome to see from afar. And then we'll welcome in Jesse, who's done a lot of work for us in the past, obviously. Jess, I know from afar you're a big fan of the OSFL. What's it like been kind of watching this league and covering it for the past couple months?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much content going out every week, and trying to keep your tabs on the three divisions and the two levels of each division. There's so much football happening, but I've been really impressed with the parity this year. I think it's turned a corner, and I think I'm especially excited to see some double A's jump up to triple A and have success. Like we're going to probably mention Waterloo here, but the fact that movement and momentum is kind of happening, I think is a big feather in the cap for the league.
Absolutely, guys. Well,
I agree.
Want to thank you both for joining me on this full-length episode. We haven't gotten into one of these in a while. I thought it was a perfect opportunity for the panel to jump on here and break everything down in OSFL, because, I mean, man, guys, when you get into it, I mean, it moves pretty quickly. And with that being said, we're through another weekend. Another weekend has passed in the OSFL. Some big upsets this weekend, gentlemen, that I kind of wanted to bring up first here before we get into everything. One of the things I wanted to mention quickly off the top is the Cambridge Lions knocking off the undefeated Hamilton Tiger Cats there at the U18 AAA level. Cambridge in years past, fellas, I feel like has fallen short of the top dogs in the West. And this year they lost by 1 point to London, and now they slayed the beast that is Hamilton. So maybe I could throw it to the floor here, guys, and we could specifically talk about maybe that game and maybe the U18 AAA West as a whole, just for a quick second, and how much parity there has been in that division so far. Mike, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I agree with you. Cambridge being that special story, I guess, for this year, because you kind of see them. They're always around. They're always in the conversation, but they haven't been able over the past few years to get over that hump and make a playoff push. But man, I think this year might be totally different. I think that the West, as historically as always, is very, very competitive in the U18s, AAA, and I don't think that's going to change much over the next few weeks. But we got an addition of another team now. It's let's call it a 5-horse race out there in the West.
For sure, Jesse. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tight kind of middle in that West, right? Cambridge, London, Hamilton, Niagara. It seems like any game can go either way. So it is interesting. There's just so much good football centered in that core right there. But you got to believe that that Cambridge is looking for a playoff push finally. I think it's been a while, as we said. So I think they could be dangerous.
And then, Mike, I'll kind of throw it to you to kind of bounce around to some other divisions, some other games that caught your eye this weekend. What were some other games that maybe took you by surprise, or were just really good games that maybe you weren't expecting them to be?
Well, you know what? I had we'll stay in the East, but change the divisions. I mean, that U16 Waterloo London game this past weekend was something else. Friday Night Lights at Waterloo, perfect weather, home field advantage. I mean, we talked a lot about Waterloo making that jump, and if they're going to be able to compete. And that U16 team, that's all they did was compete. Their defense was just absolutely outstanding, almost shutting down London. London ended up scoring on a couple of special teams plays, and I talked to their head coach right after the game, and he was just had nothing but praise from his team and how they prepared. They had a week 2 loss, I think, to Burlington. They got thumped pretty bad, and he says ever since that game, it was an eye opener for us, for them, and they just continued to push over the past few weeks. So seeing that was pretty impressive. Considering London is always in the conversation in the top 1, top 2 team in the west of the U16 division. So that was that was pretty wild to see.
Yeah, and I think just the passion that that head coach, I believe Jordan Schmidt is his name.
That's him. Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
The passion that he exudes. Like I watch the 519 sports recaps every week, and I mean he was pumped after that game. The sideline shot of him going crazy with his team, and rightfully so, because Waterloo jumps to AAA this season, guys, and arguably probably the toughest conference in the league as far as, you look at just U16 as itself. Mike mentioned London being a powerhouse. How about Burlington? I mean, I'm sure we'll get to them later, but I mean, when's the last time they lost a game? They might not even remember. Like, I might not have even worked for TYSN at that point. That's how long it's been. So,
well, sir, what's funny about looking at that U16 West division is you have like the standings right now: Burlington, Hamilton, Waterloo, Niagara, London. And Oakville is in that mix as well. You're talking about 6 teams that are fighting for 4 playoff spots. There's going to be some really good football teams that aren't going to make that A-Cup championship playoff, and that's going to be a kick to them. But it just is a good testament to how good that football is in the West at U16.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Jess.
I'll just jump in. Like, how do you think that the East teams, like, how are they looking at these competitors in the West, and what and I will put this question to both of you, but how do you see it panning out in the East here at the U16 AAA level?
Well, I kind of, the East is no slouch either. I mean, you got Durham and Panthers and Kingston that are coming on strong. Vaughan just gave the Panthers a tough game, 6-3 final this past weekend. So, it might be a similar conversation in the East as well. Coming out there, and there's some, I'm looking at Cumberland, Durham, and Kingston are juggernauts for sure, and they can play and ball with those West teams any day. I've seen them, all 3 of them play, and I think U16 playoffs is going to be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Mike, is there any other games you want to touch on here before we kind of move on from this past weekend? I know seeing Quinty knock off Peterborough at U14 AA by the score margin was very surprising to see, and they're obviously a team to watch this season now, right?
Definitely, Peterborough on our own power rankings, Peterborough U14s in the AA have been the number 1 team pretty much all season. I think actually all season. Little spoiler alert if it doesn't come out before, but that's going to be changing this week, because I got to tell you, one team that's impressing me for the win-loss record, but also for the points for and against. This team has a stingy defense, and that's the Niagara Generals. Watch out for this team. They're defense wins championships, and this team's got a stellar defense. Question a little bit about the competition that they've played thus far, but that's going to change too, as their last 3 games are against some good opponents that are in the playoff conversation again, right?
For sure. Historically, Niagara too at that division, because that is their highest level of competition that they play is U14. So that's kind of their, end all be all, and they do a great job at that age group. I know the last couple years they haven't been able to get over the hump, but yeah, shout out to Quinty though. I mean, we had Peterborough there for a reason. They showed a lot. They have a lot of talent on that team still. But Jesse Skyhawks getting it done at multiple age groups this season. Jesse, you can jump in there a little bit. I know you love the Skyhawks. Tell the people about how much you love the color scheme and everything.
Yeah, it's nice to see Peterborough though. I really didn't hear anything about them the last 2 years except for at like the U10 level. So to see them, competitive, and that, I think that's similar to Cornwall. That's an area in the province that's hard to go deep in the playoffs, right? So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them. And then, of course, I think the Skyhawks, again, just to be competitive. I think 2 years ago, we saw some amazing offensive weapons from that program in the Summer Cup. And, I think they're coached well. So it's good to see them at the top of the standings.
Yeah, and then I'd be remiss to not talk about Kingston taking down the Wildcats this past weekend at U18. That's always a very tough physical game. That was a big game on the calendar to see if the Wildcats can kind of stay with it. They dropped one to Cumberland a couple of weeks ago. That was tough, close game. But Kingston seems to be a really tough defensive team at that age group this season. Mike, I'll throw it to you one last time. Is there any other game or any other team you wanted to mention before we get to some of these takeaways that we have?
Yeah, I was just gonna touch on that Kingston U18. They're rolling right now. I like that organization. Again, one of those kind of like maybe the Cambridge of the East is Kingston. They're always in the thoughts, but haven't really got that deep playoff push as well. And then if we talk about the last 3 weeks, I mean, the Cumberland Panthers U14 team, people were talking about North Halton coming in, giving them a challenge, and then Peel, and then going out to Scarborough to give Scarborough Thunder, an undefeated team, a challenge. And that really hasn't panned out. All three of those games were blowouts for Cumberland. So I really like their chances of repeating this year. I really do.
Well,
they got the players and the coaching staff is there.
And how special is it for Kingston at the U18 level to be hosting the Summer Cup? And you look at this kind of juggernaut defense, right? It got 130 points for and just 21 points against.
Yep.
So, in terms of Kingston taking on potentially a Big East kind of final or even getting kind of to the show this year, that defense is going to play a big part of that. And I just wonder if they're going to be able to hold up that kind of trend.
Well, they have the best defense in the league and I'll say the best offense in the league too for points score. I think they're like 4 points behind someone else. But I mean, they got the offense, they got the defense, they score, they stop. They're our power ranking number one for a reason.
They're tough out. They're tough out for sure. And maybe this is the year that everything changes, gentlemen. I mean, we talk about Cambridge and Kingston not being able to get over the hump and win the big game. Maybe this is the year that it changes, and that's why we love covering this league. All right, guys, shifting gear. Go ahead, Jess.
Jump in, Devin, just to say that, I don't expect a Kingston team to be kind of going to the final every year. But when you do have the team, you got to beat the Cumberland Panthers or the Myers Riders in the East and get there. And I think the pressure to some degree is on Kingston and that franchise, right? They're hosting the Summer Cup. They haven't been there, to my knowledge, since the OVFL inception. So this might be their year.
It's a good point, Jess. It really could be, and how awesome would that be to cover them? We already got to do that with Essex a couple of years ago, where they hosted the championships. They hosted that U18 AAA game. Would love to see a duplicate of that this summer at the correlation of this summer. But wanted to shift gears here, guys, and do a little interesting exercise. I'm very interested to hear all of your guys' one biggest takeaway from the first 5 weeks of the OSFL season. Whatever it may be, I just want to hear one thing that has really caught your eye from following this league over the first 5 weeks of play. Jesse, you have the floor. What has caught your eye over the past several weeks?
Well, I'm just looking at the playoff implications if we step down to the U14 AAA level. And I just wrote some notes here, but, Waterloo and London, that was huge. I don't think we're done with that dust up, right? So heading into the finals, Essex likely the third seed, but Mike mentioned this, like Oakville and Hamilton are all in there. So I think the takeaway is just the West is always just so strong, and this year at the U14 level, this is going to be a clash in the next few weeks.
Well, and piggybacking off of that too, Jess, London and Essex do play this weekend, which has been historically one of the biggest West rivals. And this year, I mean, we can talk about Essex maybe a little bit later, but at the older age groups, they've kind of taken a step back, maybe a retool year for them. But at U14, those are the two undefeated teams left in the West, is Essex and London. So we will see if Essex is that third seed or second seed or even first seed if they can knock off London. Remember, guys, London made that AAA final at that age group last year against Cumberland, who, I mean, is a juggernaut, but, they were in that game and they played pretty tough against them up until about halftime. So I do like that, Jess. I think you could say that about most of the divisions and most of the age groups, but that U14 West, there is definitely some juggernaut teams in there. We'll see, because obviously Cumberland's not playing these teams until a potential final. We'll see kind of where they stack up against each other, and that's a perfect segue into you, Mike. What's been your biggest takeaway over these past 5 weeks?
Well, you know what? Just talked about it earlier. I'm going to actually just take my takeaway is one of the rules or one of the operating guidelines that the OSFL has, and it's the relegation process. To see some teams that are coming up and from Double A, the North Haltons, the Waterloos, the Peels, Vaughan, having some success, somewhat success, building off of their success that they've had at the Double A's, at the Triple A level has been a pleasant surprise for me, and then also seeing a team like Scarborough, who historically hasn't been great at AAA, going down to AA and having some success there. So I really encourage and I really like that the discussions are happening at the league level, at the end of the season, and then of course prior to the season and prior to a schedule coming out of this relegation process. And I really hope that the league continues to have those conversations with the clubs and continues to look at, I know everybody wants to play AAA. I know that everybody thinks that they can move up and play it, but realistically, and history has said that that's not true. So kudos to the clubs that believe in themselves and can get there and are giving it a go, and also kudos to the club that say, listen, we're just not there yet, or we're taking a little bit of a step back and going and having some success at the Double A, because as we've seen throughout this season, that's some damn good football, right? And I like that. So that to me has been one of the biggest takeaways, and I encourage the league to keep having these conversations in order to grow the game and to have regionalization processes and keep this going, because it's been a pleasant surprise this year, and I like it.
Now, Mike, a question for you as a former coach and also a president. Do you think that sometimes that confidence of putting a AAA team in comes down to more the coaching staff a lot of times? Like, you gotta be complete as a coaching staff and have everyone kind of committed to the summer to be able to take a team and do well in the AAA level? Or is it more of just predicting the players that you're getting? What would you say?
I think it's a combination of both, for sure. Without those dedicated coaches who are going to go out and recruiting these talents and make that run, for sure. But you take the teams and you take those coaches that are on that team. That's all one thing. But if it doesn't start at the top of the culture of the club, saying this is what we are we going to take it to the next level, or are we just going to maintain where we are and continue status quo? So there's a gamble by a lot of clubs, because not everything is gonna turn out perfect. I mean, I look at the Waterloo program. U14, U16, absolute. They're having a lot of success. U18, they're at 0-4, and they're not. Hopefully next year, what's going to happen? They're going to evaluate their U16 team. How's the U18 going to go? And then they can have those conversations internally, and then have those conversations with the league and go from there. So yeah, you're right. It starts at the club level with the leadership, and it's got to trickle down to the coaches. And if the coaches buy in and they're the ones having those conversations with the club's leadership, I mean, like what Devin was saying earlier, the passion that the U16 Waterloo Warriors coaching staff has, that you need that. You have to have that if you want to compete in AAA. It's a prerequisite, So
Devin, you mentioned that the head coach kind of has the energy, the spirit of the players, but I can tell you, I had some doubts when they came out and they declared that AAA level. But, you could tell that the organization was bought in. They had a press conference. They had just come out of hosting the Summer Cup and doing phenomenal, just hosting that whole event. So they had all this wind on their back. And it's like you said, it's good to see them doing well and having some success.
It is good to see, for sure. And I echo with Mike there. I do like teams having the self-awareness to maybe, you know, let's go down for a couple of years, reestablish our culture, find the right pieces to get us to that next level. But I also want to say there's nothing wrong with being a really good AA team. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You're still going to compete for championships. There's still a ton of very talented football players in those regions. They might be a little bit smaller, or they might not have the depth, but there's still plenty of talent there. And in my opinion, a lot of the Summer Cups that we've covered, Jess, you know, a lot of the AA games have been some of the better, more competitive games.
I was going to say, yeah, that's true at the Fall Cup too, right? What do we always say? The Fall Cup, those you know, Tier 2 finals are amazing, and you get to see some players and some teams that don't always get the spotlight. So yeah, I'm almost, I would say I'm a fan of those AA games in the Summer Cup, maybe more than the premier, you know, AAA U18 game. You know, we've been fortunate; we've gotten some good ones the last few years, but you're absolutely right on that.
For sure, yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love watching both, but like I said, there's nothing wrong with AA, and that's kind of a perfect segue what Mike was talking about into my biggest takeaway, which has been the parity, really, guys. I mean, if you look at Cumberland and you look at Burlington at U14 and U16, they still have a stranglehold on that. But if you go look at the U18 AAA West, every team has lost a game, you know, and you look at the East, only Kingston hasn't lost a game, right? I mean, people aren't just running away with it, and you know, teams that have beaten other teams are losing to other teams that have beaten those teams, you know what I mean? And that's a perfect kind of description of what Mike was talking about, where if you get the right 8 teams in AAA and you get the right 8 or 10 teams in AA, we want to get to a point as a league and as a media company covering the league where every game's competitive, and you know, everyone's getting predictions wrong like I have been all year because they don't know who's going to win and they're going to be so close, right? So I really look at the parity, like keying in on the AAA West at U18. I think that's just like the perfect example of it. Not to say there's not parity everywhere else, because of course there is, but if you just look at that and nobody has gone, you know, nobody has gone without a loss. I think that bodes well for the league and overall where we're going with it, right? I mean, obviously Waterloo's had some struggles there, and there's still some teams struggling, but I think that's kind of rinse and repeat, where you're going to get that every, you know, few years, where, you know, maybe you don't have the talent coming up that you did a couple years ago, but that's kind of been my biggest takeaway from it so far is just the parity we've been able to see. It's been great to see, guys.
Absolutely, Dev. Like I think if you think about the, you know, the commercialization of the OSFL, right? So what that does is it adds excitement, and the excitement, as we're seeing, is building and building right to that final, where maybe that family that was going to go, you know, check out the you know, the Summer Cup, you know, if we're not getting those tight games and we don't have that parity, they might not make the trip. But, you know, when you have all these regions and all these populated centers down in Southern Ontario that want to come watch in person, and come down, you know, that equals ticket sales, that equals canteen sales. Like, this can really be a boost for the host organization, and also just add to the excitement of the league, so that players are showing up in the summer. They're looking forward to their summers, to be traveling, getting on that bus, right? You don't want this league to kind of just erode to the point where we're not, you know, you have those clear favorites, and then we have kind of bottom tier teams. So it's great to see that this is happening. I think, Mike, you mentioned it, right? It takes constant reevaluation of where you are, realistic looks, and doing what's right for the program, as opposed to maybe the coaches' egos.
Well, exactly that too, and you touched a little bit on the hype of the league and football in Ontario in general. And you know, I know for a fact, you know, here in Ottawa, along with many of the places around the province, there are some phenomenal football players that aren't playing, right? You know, for whatever their personal reasons are, they're not. And I tell you, if you're a football player and you're a baller and you want to get to the next level at any point, whether that's in prep school, NCAA, U Sports, university, pro, whatever. I mean, if you're not playing right now at the highest caliber football that you possibly are able to, I don't know if those are options, because it's the OSFL. It's the highest caliber, and I've talked to many U Sports coaches around Ontario and in Quebec and in the Atlantic, and they all know about the OSFL. Every single one of them knows, and I think anybody would be hard pressed to not find a U Sports coach at a U16 or a U18 game. Definitely at AAA, and then probably even at AA a few at every single week, every single game throughout the course of the summer. There's somebody there watching, and everybody knows it. So if you're a player and you want to get to the next level, man, you got to play OSFL. You got to.
And you know what? We've seen the benefit of that, just here in your backyard with the Panthers, right? Julian going to Carleton and having success as a coach there. I don't think that happens as quick unless there's that quality summer program coming out of Cumberland every year where he can kind of get reps, he can try some new things, he can get the confidence under him to be, speaking with these young men and knowing what he's talking about. So for us to have a strong youth sports program too, we're going to need that feeder system for the coaches as well.
You look at all the teams and you look at their social medias. Yeah, I can speak a lot to the Panthers. Myers has the same. A lot of players coming out of there. Durham, London, Hamilton. Like it's every single week. I see a club post on their social media that one of their players has gone to the next level, and it's because of the OSFL. It's because of how big it's gotten. It's because of the competition. It's because you're playing against the best players in the province, the best players available. So if you're not playing OSFL, you need to be.
Now, I will mention too, just another takeaway. Looking forward to, as always, a Myers-Cumberland battle. Maybe just as much excited about going out and seeing the community and all the people that come and have been involved in football. But I'm sure we're going to see, at that U16 level, we've got a 2-2 Myers. They've still got some time. And then, of course, you got the, Cumberland that looks hard to stop right now. But I'm still looking forward to that game, as I always do, the black and blue battle.
Battle of the Capital, that's what they call it, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Always definitely one of the ones I circle on the schedule. Okay, guys, moving on a little bit here. I kind of wanted to ask all of you guys about a team that maybe has surprised you so far this season, for better or for worse, whatever you guys want to talk about here. But there's definitely been some sleeper teams, and Mike and I were able to jump on a few of our divisional breakdowns before the season started. So we can look back on those and definitely pinpoint some teams that have stood out for among the rest. But let's start with you this time, Mike. What team has really shocked you over the course of the 5 weeks that we've seen so far?
So I'm going to kind of talk maybe a little bit less about a team per se, as more of a club. And Essex Ravens are just shocking to me with their U18 and their U16 teams. Like this is a club that is always in the conversation, always can knock off any team on the best of days. Their U14 team is having some success, and that's great. I consider that the grassroots of AAA, and if they're in a rebuild year, that's the program that you want to have the most success at. But for their U18s to be losing the way that they are, and their U16s I don't think they've won a game yet, which is just shocking to me, because that's not the type of environment and the type of culture that I know as the Essex Ravens. So I don't want to say it's surprising to me. However, if that's what they're in a bit of a rebuild, then so be it. Like I said, the U14 team having the success they are is only going to be trouble for everybody else in the next couple of years. But a little shocking to me, especially when we talked about the preseason.
Definitely shocking. Nobody had, especially the varsity team, penciled in for bottom 2 or 3 teams in the division. I mean, nobody had that happening. So definitely, Mike, Jess, I'll let you go. I know you wanted to say something there.
No, I was just going to say, a couple of years ago we visited Glenn, and he was just doing his landscaping and getting the pool ready, but maybe he's enjoying that backyard a lot this summer, but he's going to have to get in that hot tub to de-stress, because it's not a position that Essex is comfortable or used to being in.
It's crazy to see. I mean, they're in real jeopardy. They did get a big win this week against, I believe, Oakville, and Oakville was a team that beat Niagara, and Niagara is actually one of the surprising teams as well. So maybe Essex can turn things around. I don't know how likely it is that they make that top 4 division bracket, but that's kind of crazy to see, because this will be the first time since the OSFL inception that they're not probably a top 2 team in the West. So Mike, I think that is a good pick. Like Jesse mentioned, we do all three of us, I think, have a relationship with Glenn in some sorts, and wish him all the best. He's got the beautiful Ravens gear posted all over his house, Jess. Like it's pretty crazy.
And he knows that I'm joking because he was so gracious with us when we were dating
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and beautiful backyard. But just thought I'd throw that in there, and I know he'll be watching. I'm gonna say, at the double A U18 level, Brantford. So, Brantford is something we haven't talked about. I haven't heard much from them or about that, but we talked about that double A division, and Brantford is sitting there at a pretty strong position. But also, Guelph and Etobicoke also rounding out the strong top 3 teams there. So I think the last few years, Brantford, I think, can really hold their own the last few years, but to see them kind of at that top of that double A, I'm looking forward to seeing how they do later in the season.
Well, how about Brantford's defense? 6 points allowed in 3 games. That's pretty impressive.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Defending champs, and funny enough that you say that, Jess. I'll pick another team now because you singled out Brantford. Guess how many losses they have at U14, U16, and U18 combined? Somebody guess right now how many losses they have at all 3 combined.
2.
0. They have not lost a game at U14, U16, and U18. So this was going to be my thing. Are we looking at our next AAA center here? I mean, they haven't lost a game at all 3. They're defending champions, like Jesse mentioned, at the varsity level. They have not lost a game, gentlemen. And say what you want about the schedule. I don't know it off the top of my head exactly who they've been playing, but it doesn't really matter if you're beating everybody. I'll throw it to the floor right here. Do you guys think Brantford next year should be the team that we're talking about, like Waterloo and Peel, making that jump up into AAA?
Well, I don't know if you can, predict that necessarily, because you also look at Sioux and you look at, Quincy and Sudbury. They're not far behind either. So I think we'll know more over the next 3 weeks. I'd say it's a little too early to predict if they're jumping up to AAA.
I talked about the 6 points for their senior team, but their JV team, their U16, 0. So yeah, maybe they're the next one.
Could be. I just thought that was going to be mine before Jesse picked them. I will go another direction. Go ahead, Jess.
Oh, I was just going to say Brantford. I got some bad memories. When we were in the OVFL, I was playing for Myers, undefeated, point record every season. We see Brantford in the East final. They come up to Ottawa, Minto Field, and they put a whooping on us. And it was just pure, hard nose, run it down the middle of football, and they beat up on us. So Brantford's a scary part of the province, I think, for football.
Okay, I like that, Jess. And shout out to signal caller at U18, Ben Spangenberger, who is making a trek to win back-to-back provincial titles. They're definitely interesting to watch. I will go in another direction. Definitely wanted to shout them out how they haven't lost at those 3 divisions. They might not even have lost at U12 or U10. I don't know, but they might be looking at a perfect season around the board right now. I'm going to go with the North Halton Crimson Tide. I mean, specifically at U14 AAA, because me and Mike talked about this in our prediction or our preseason breakdown. We both had them unanimously finishing last in the division, and some things came out later where a lot of the Burlington coaches and players moved to that way. But I have a really good relationship with Jason, their VP. I seen Mike was talking to him the other day as well. Jesse, they're kind of my Quinty for you. Like, I just love the Tide and like the color scheme, that maroon, like it's really cool. But also, like, good for them for making, guys, they didn't even have a U14 team last year at all. Not even double A, nothing. So they come back here. Obviously, they had to play Cumberland. I guess that game was really close, Mike, up until halftime, and then Cumberland kind of pulled away. So still look for that team to be probably the second best team in that East. And who knows if they play again, Mike? I mean, it's up in the air. You never know what can happen. And also wanted to shout out their U18 team. They Brantford really took care of them a couple weeks ago. I thought that would be a closer game, a little bit more competitive. But shout out to the Tide, and I think they could do big things at the U14 AAA East.
Yeah, just kind of touched on that with Can Northallerton C Cumberland again. I don't even know if you guys are aware, but how the playoff structure is working this year for the playoffs is the quarterfinals are going to be East and West. One plays 4, 2 plays 3. However, the semifinals are going to be a crossover. So the 1 and 2 team play the 2 and 1 team in a crossover. So it's very, very possible it could be an all West final or an all East final or a mix of both, right? So you talk about the U18 West and how strong it is. It's very, very possible that there's a West final, which would be wild.
Well, yeah, and we've seen that, right? We've seen that a couple of years ago with Essex playing Hamilton. I really like how the playoff schedule is determined there, because it really gives the league the opportunity to see the 2 best teams play each other in the final, which is really what we want, right?
I agree. So, I like it too. It's
that's what
well
I was
done.
gonna say. Yeah.
It's the best way. It's the best way.
That's up a good final.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, gentlemen, anything else that anybody wanted to talk about as far as maybe throwing another team in there just to segue in, or are we kind of good to move on? I'm just procrastinating because I don't want to talk about our predictions and get into that, because hasn't went too well for me. But anything else, guys, on a team that maybe has surprised you or jumped out to you?
I like the play that we're seeing out of some of the North teams. We don't talk a lot about the North too much. Most specifically, mostly AA. But teams like Huronia coming out with some good games at all levels. Sault Ste. Marie is competitive in the divisions. Sudbury as well is competitive. So I like what we're seeing up there. We don't often talk too much about the northern teams. It's East and West, but those some of those North teams are playing some really, really good football, so shout out to them.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. Like, what that does to the programs up north is if they can be in some games with these powerhouse, West or East teams, I think that gives the boost to the program. I think people start talking about it a little bit more. Maybe they get a few more clippings in the old newspaper, but that will help grow the North. And I agree. I'd like to see some really competitive groups out of Sioux, out of Sudbury. We want to see them competitive every year.
Yep,
For sure, and we got the chance just to watch Sioux win the U18 AA provincial title a couple years ago in Windsor. That was the last game we covered. Man, they looked like a well-oiled machine. So I think the football in the North is getting really good too, and who knows, maybe along with Brantford, maybe like you said, just the Sioux, the Sudburys, and as Mike mentioned, maybe even a Huronia can make that jump. You never know, but it has been very very good to see that. All right, guys, let's get into these predictions and see where we stand here. For everyone who follows along with these every week, we get a lot of comments, and we get a lot of talking back and forth with some passionate OSFL fans every week on this. I will throw a graphic up on the screen that we use here, but for everybody listening, right now we have a tie for first place overall. So when I do post the graphics, AAA and AA have their own rankings, but overall, Jesse and Mike are exactly tied for number 1 in our predictions at 16, 7, and 1, with me not even above 500 at 11, 12, and 1. So this has been really fun to follow along with, guys. I know we were talking off record button there about the one-score games that have been happening. I think the game of the week that have been picked, for the most part, have really lived up to the hype, where they could both go either way. I mean, there's been some that have been, and we've normally been on all of those teams, but this has been really fun for us, I think, guys, especially, if you're not following the league as much, to pay attention to this. I think that goes, I'm the only one who only got 11 wins, but that just goes to show you the parity that we've seen. I mean, a lot of these games, guys, could have gone either way, and I wanted to be the first to say, the loser will have to buy a round for this, and I might have to just withdraw from it altogether, take my name and picture off the graphic of this going forward. So, no, guys, I wanted to throw it to you, and has this been fun for you guys so far? And how many wins do you think gets the cake here at the end of the season? Because I don't know. I don't know anything about winning these, right?
Well, Mike, I think the pressure now, we've got a great finish, but every choice now I'm going to double check because it's on now. But Dev, you just got to play it out. You got to climb the board as best you can just for dignity and pride for heading into next season. But I've been loving it. It's fun, and kudos to you, Devin, for picking those matchups. I think you've done a good job of setting us up with the right games to keep an eye on.
I agree. The games of the week have been great. Tough to make some calls. I know your strategy, man. You want those Dev. You want those high key matchups with the 1 point game going the other way, so that you can come on and gloat with us all the time. See, I told you. So it hasn't paid off yet, but I'm pretty sure you keep going with that strategy. It's gonna pay off sooner or later.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jess.
I was gonna say, Mike, next week I owe you. I'm gonna go first. Okay, it's just to make sure I'm not cherry picking.
So that's exactly what I was about to say. I'm like, I always chime in first, and then a couple hours later, you came on the same thing except for one or two. So yeah, you're going first this week for sure.
Well, you guys don't even see my picks. Thank
God. That's it.
If someone was tailing mine, I mean, Jesus, I apologize for sure. But no, that's been really fun to follow along.
We appreciate the honor system, Dev.
Yes. For sure. Yeah. Yes. But good luck to you guys both. Who knows if I might just pick. You guys have. I'll spoil it for everybody quickly. Mike and Jesse have the exact same 6 teams picked, and as Mike just said, Jesse did kind of tail him a little bit there. I might just have to go in the complete opposite direction. Just
why the hell not?
Throw in a prayer, right?
Yeah.
Hail Mary. I think it's Hail Mary time for me. How many weeks left of the regular season do we have? Is it 2 or 3?
Three official games, yeah. 4 weeks, but I think three games for everybody.
3 games, so 3 games, and then the playoffs. I gotta make a last second dying comeback here for sure.
And I think
but no, guys, that's been awesome to follow along. Make sure you're following us on socials, and we love the commentary back and forth. Let's try and keep it a little positive, right? Especially for someone who's 11, 12, and 1. Okay, I'm already kicking myself enough. Let's try and keep it a little bit positive. We're just having fun with it. There's no hard feelings to the teams we're not picking, right, guys? So just wanted to throw that out there. It's been a blast to do that. But all right, guys, I really wanted to get into this now. We got a few minutes left here to go through things. I want to hear everyone's Summer Cup matchup predictions, and I'm going to go around the horn here. Let's try and make these quickly, guys, because I want to go through U14 all the way to U18.
Yep.
How about we start at the U18 AAA division, and I will go to you, Mr. Mike Schmidt, with your prediction.
So my biggest thing is, can Cambridge beat London again in the playoffs after that week 2? Or sorry, can they beat them in the playoffs after that close 1 point game in week 2? So I'm going with Kingston versus Cambridge in the final.
Jesse, Kingston and Cambridge. I'm going to follow Mike.
With the crossover now, I'm less sure now that Mike told us about this 1 and 4, 2 and 3 matchup, right? But I'm gonna say London's gonna make the final. I think it's just expected. I think they will pull through. But if it's possible, I do think that Niagara will also pull through.
Okay, so Jesse, you got Niagara and London playing in the U18 AAA final.
I do, yeah.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Unexpected.
That's very unexpected, Jesse. I wish you would do things like that in our predictions.
I was going to say, that's a Devin pick there, man.
The Niagara, they've actually been having a really good season.
They have.
They knock off Burlington this past weekend, who everyone was clamoring as the next powerhouse in U18 AAA. They've faltered the last couple of weeks.
They were our preseason number 1 in the power rankings, right?
Preseason number 1 in the power rankings, yeah. And they've fallen to 2 tough losses. I am actually going to piggyback off of Mike here, just like Jesse does in our text threads. Give me Cambridge and Kingston. I think Mike mentioned this earlier too. I think they're mirrors of themselves in the East and the West. I think Kingston gets there because there's a lot on the line. I think they're probably the only team out of the three that has a chance to make it, in my opinion, and have a host a playoff game, a host championship game. And I think they take on Cambridge, but give me the Cambridge Lions. I think the Cambridge Lions take care of business this year, finally, for the first time. I've been on them a lot. I'm a big Cambridge Lions fan. Their head coach, Christian Curiata, is a great guy, another very passionate head coach. So I will go with you there too, Mike. Let's go to the U18 AA, guys. And Jesse, I'll start with you this time.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to go with Brantford getting to the final at the AA level, and I'm going to put them with the Sioux. I'm going to stay with the Sioux for that.
Mike, what do you got there?
Well, I mean, you can't go against the two best defenses in the league, and that's Brantford and the Sioux. And defense wins championships, and I'm going to be going the same with that.
Gentlemen, that's a clean sweep across the board. I think those are the two clear best teams at that division. I can't wait to watch that game. I don't think I've ever seen those two teams play, so that'll be really fun to watch them play. Let's move down to U16. Mike, we'll start with you. I have an inkling here, but what do you got in the AAA at U16?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's Cumberland versus Burlington for the third year in a row.
Yep. Jesse?
Yeah, I'm going that too. I think because I want to see it, I'm less sure about it, but I want to see it. So I'm going to go with that choice.
I'm the exact same way. All right, I'm picking that as well on record. Can Cumberland, they haven't beat them yet in this championship game. What a way to do it to prevent the three-peat. If Cumberland can three-peat at U14, be the first team to three-peat, and then also prevent the Burlington three-peat at U16, that's a storyline to watch. So I am also on that matchup.
So I will throw this at you because I am a fan of what they're doing out there. But the one team that can throw a wrench into all these plans for both sides, I think, is Durham. And big game this week. Game of the year, in my opinion, across all levels is Durham and Cumberland. It will tell us where both teams are at. Both teams have exceptional defenses. I'm talking about Durham and Cumberland, so I think Durham is going to be the X factor there for me as well, and I'm very high on Durham also.
Definitely. I don't even want to discredit Hamilton as well. I think Hamilton can maybe give some problems as well, but you're right, Mike. I think Durham can throw a wrench into those plans for either team. As you mentioned, I could see them knocking out Cumberland or Burlington if they get them on a good week in the playoffs. But I think as fans of the league, I want to see one last clash between Burlington and Cumberland. I want to see what we can get out of that. Last year's ended up being a blowout. I want to see that game again. I want to see it's become cross conference rivals. So I really want to watch that again. U16 AA, Mike.
U16 AA. I'm going back to my old saying: defense wins championships, and the two best defenses at the U16 AA division, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be an East-West battle again. West team going to be Brantford. East team is going to be Sudbury.
Hey, Jesse, what do you got?
You know what? I'm going with Sudbury too, but I took Sarnia actually.
Hey, all right. Funny,
yeah, Sarnia is our number one team right now in the power rankings, so they have something to say about that.
They've got the offense, I think.
Yeah.
As long as they don't sputter, I think they can score enough points to get it done.
Yeah, and I actually thought I'd be alone here on Sudbury, guys, but I am also going with the Sudbury Spartans. They actually won it in the first year of the OSFL, this exact division, this exact championship. I'm going to have them playing Brantford, and I'm going to move back to I think Brantford should be moving to AAA next year. Guys, Brantford hasn't given up a point. I mean, they haven't given up a point. Mike mentioned that earlier. Let's see Brantford in there against Sudbury. That's another matchup that I don't think we've seen.
I really like this Sudbury U16 team. They had a ton of success last year. They lost some games by a score. I think they were very, very close last year to going undefeated, and some of the games that they lost were just by one score, and they're off to building off of that again this year. So I really like what they're doing up in Sudbury.
Okay, so let's move on to U14 AAA, and I think I mean, I think we're going to be all together on one of the teams, but the other team, guys, I think you can go a lot of ways here. So interested to hear what you guys think here. Jesse, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so AAA, U14, we're talking, I think it's London Cumberland.
London, so rematch of last year.
I do.
You think London gets it done? Okay.
I think those kind of premier clubs just pull through and they get there and they see each other in the final. That's going to be a great game if that happens.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it's even up for discussion. They're both teams are just way too powerful, too much talent and too much depth. So those two teams for sure.
Well, I think it is up for discussion because I'm gonna go. We spent some time here today talking about how Essex has had trouble this season at U16 and U18. I'm going to pick them here. I'm going to pick them to play the Cumberland Panthers in the final. I think this weekend is a very close game. Like I said, it could go either way between Essex and London. But I'm gonna shine some light on the Ravens organization for everything they've done over the past few years and pick them here.
Interesting what you said about that. This weekend will tell where it is. Just like what I was saying about Durham this past weekend, I think Essex at the U14 could be the Durham of the U16. Could shake up everything. So I'm not at that pick. I support it.
Okay, all right. Love to hear it. All right, guys, one more to get through here, and that's the U14 AA. Schmitty, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think another East-West final on this. I'm going to go Quinty in the East, and I think Niagara's going to run the table, finish undefeated, go undefeated throughout the entire regular season, undefeated in the playoffs, undefeated in the championship game.
Jesse?
Yeah, I'm going to match that too. Quinty, Niagara seem to be the choices for me. It's hard to pick away from those two clubs. They're doing so well, so I'm going Quinty, Niagara.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that same thing here, guys. I'm with Schmitty, though. I think this is the year Niagara finally gets over the hump. They've been good here a lot of the years prior. I do think that they run the slate and probably take care of business against Jesse's Skyhawks in Kingston, which will be a great game for us to watch. Again, do want to shout out quickly the Clarington Knights at U14 AA. We've seen them struggle even to field teams a lot of the years, and this season they're 3-1 at U14 AA. They've also seen a couple of wins, I think, at U16 as well. So shout out to Clarington for getting things done there. But I am with you guys on those three matchups. So those are our matchup predictions. We are still going to do our week-by-week predictions, everybody. I know you look forward to hammering us there. I see a lot of things come through on socials all weekend. Love seeing it. But yeah, those are our matchup predictions. We'll see, guys. I do think we're gonna have some new teams there this summer at the culmination of everything. And I think this is a perfect segue. Jesse, I'll throw it to you here. Let's chat about this Fall Cup. Let's give the viewers the official news. Is TYSN going to be there providing coverage again? What's the plan here?
Yes, the Summer Cup. Yeah, I mean, in Kingston, it's not that big of a drive. In the past, Windsor, Waterloo. I also wonder if there is some Eastern home field advantage with that. Coming from London, perhaps. Is there just a little bit of a vibe that you're out of territory when they come all this way up to Kingston?
So I can attest to that. I've been to championship games in Waterloo. I've been to championship games in Windsor, and 100%. 100%. It's not just a road trip to the game. It's a full weekend of a mindset. And if you're traveling 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours to get to the game, it is a factor. So I think Kingston is a sweet spot. It's 2.5 hours away from the north, the east, and most of the teams in the GTA and west. So it's an absolute perfect location, I think, for everybody.
And let's talk about the venue. That's maybe the best stadium in the province, right?
Yeah.
So, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, TYSN is going to be streaming it. It's going to be great. It's going to be the top quality that everyone's come to expect. I think Mike's going to be making a debut there.
Yeah, if you have me, I definitely want to be there for sure.
Yeah, Definitely, everybody, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. We will be doing the full slate, what everyone has come accustomed to. And if you don't think that the travel makes a difference, just ask our broadcast team that we bring up to Windsor and to Waterloo. They'll tell you. We had some discussions there, doing 12 games a day, whatever, in the boiling heat. You think we were all sunshine and rainbows? We are very happy that it's in Kingston. Even more happy that it's at the beautiful venue of Queen's University. That's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. Hopefully Kingston does get to represent, right? And maybe they're one of the teams that we get to see. That'll put the cherry on top. Mike, really looking forward to you making the trek with us and hopefully getting to call a couple of games with you. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yep,
I'd love to have you up there for that.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be great. One more thing I wanted to mention before we hop off here, fellas. Make sure you're buying your Gridiron Gold Mega Raffle tickets. We just recently eclipsed over 30,000. Last year's winner, I believe, Jesse, somewhere in the neighborhood of 105 to 110,000 that they took home. I want to smash that this year. So I want to see the community here really make a push in this final month and a half, whatever it is. Let's buy those raffle tickets, man. Support teams in Ontario, and you also get a chance to win that big money. And I got to sit beside Football Ontario CEO Aaron Giesler last year when he made that call. The last 2 years actually, and it is a life-changing call. I mean, you are getting $100,000, and we're looking for even more this year. So wanted to encourage everyone to buy the raffle tickets. We will once again be announcing it live during that last game of the live stream. But that's my final send off.
Devin, just to touch on that too. Hey, a couple tens of thousands of dollars, life-changing money for the average person around, but those couple $1,000s that are raised for all the clubs across Ontario, you'd be surprised what a couple $1,000s can do for a club, whether it's new equipment, helping support some players that are unable to pay their fees. That goes a long way, and nobody can do it in this province without the support of our families that are around us, our friends that support, and we, as a club and as a player and as a coach, we owe everything to our families and friends. And if we can support those clubs all across Ontario, that's a big thing, because that money can be very, very useful for every single club in Ontario.
100%. And I'll just say what a great opportunity for the Kingston franchise, because unless I'm mistaken, I think Waterloo hosting the Summer Cup last year, all in all, I think they walked away with 20 grand. So you talk about
over 20 grand
making a difference. 20 grand to Waterloo. Kingston has an opportunity to do that as well. So the parity, the excitement that we're talking about is going to send people to the stands and sending them buying the raffle tickets on the stream. So yeah, absolutely, get out, get your tickets.
Definitely, guys. So all in all, the first 5 weeks of the season, I mean, what more can you ask for? This is my favorite time of the year, getting to cover this league with you gentlemen. It's been a pleasure, and can't wait for Kingston. Can't wait for the culmination of it at Queen's University a little bit earlier this year too, so we get to enjoy our August a little bit more. So that'll be really nice. But yeah, no, can't wait to get down there. Make sure you buy your raffle tickets, and make sure you subscribe to the TYSN YouTube channel, guys, because there's going to be some unforgettable games that weekend, and it's all going to be brought to you live on TYSN's YouTube. So thank you guys for joining me on this. Thank you for helping me cover the league this season so far. It's been a blast with you guys. This was another episode of Touchdown Ontario, the OSFL Roundup, here on TYSN, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Devin.